Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. And Bridge MCP says, I am going to do what El Señor Michael Rodman normally does. She says, hey, PDR peeps. Okay, I am doing the +1 thing. So her first question is, why can't Biden sign an executive order to the voting bill? The truth of the matter is, I think he can. I think from a legal standpoint, he can, and that the only other option the Congress has is to come and specifically vote out that whatever it is that he says, or for the next president to overrule what he calls an executive order. So I think I am with you 100%, Bridge. I see no reason, absolutamente no reason why Biden can't do it. You see, the thing about it, though, is unlike Trump, Biden is going to be concerned that, they're going to call him a dictator. But, you know, when Trump wants to do things, he just does it, right? The thing about the thing about Democrats is that they are too confoundedly squeamish and scared of their own shadows. Norman Reynolds, welcome aboard. Folks, there are quite a few of you here, but quite a few of you are silent. It's like El Señor Rodman say, I'm going to be checking out for a while and everybody hides. Come on, let's get busy and come on, folks, let me see your faces. Well, I'm not going to see your face. I know that. I'm going to actually do see you. Hey, all of you guys that are on YouTube live right now, go ahead and throw that, what is it called? Thumbs up. If you are on Facebook, please give me that like. If you are on Twitch, I understand there's not a good way to give a like on Twitch, but do whatever you can. Twitter, go ahead and follow Egberto Willies. Don't forget to follow Egberto Willies on Twitter. That is how we do it. How do we say it? That is how we get it done out here. That is how we get it done. Anyway, continuing with some Roberto Luis. Saludo mi gente. Politics Done Right. Dice Sarah Bathy says, howdy face. You're going to show me your face, Sarah. I see that. And it's smiling. You see, we have happy people here. Look, we're coming on to a new year. And I am pledging that this year, no matter what's happening, I am going to make it a good year. Nanette Bird Smith, bienvenida, which means welcome. Going to make it a great year. We are going to make it a great year. We are going to be on the positive aim of things and saying we're going to have a good year. And all that negativity that's coming around that progressives are not going to win this time around, I want you guys to do what we talk about here all the time, exponential progression, okay? Each of us have to talk to our own spheres of influence and not allow them. Peggy Lopez, ¿cómo estás, amiga? Hi, all, she says. Hello, Peggy. We have to remember to tell folks, you be the change. Carl Cox, man, you guys are coming out now. Democratic politicians are cowards, won't fight. Is according to Karl Cox. He says GOP politicians will fight for their masters, mega rich and mega corporations. You have that right. And of course, it turns out that we have one of those bots in here that I'm about to kill off immediately. The bot is now gone. He's blocked. This is not a person, this is a bot. So I just got rid of that bot. Bridge MCP says she agrees with Carl. I think all of us here agrees with Carl. Okay, well, how do we win 2022? Juan Manuel Rivera, saludos amigo, ¿cómo has estado? Welcome aboard. Let me tell you something, guys. Again, if you are on YouTube, please give me that thumbs up now before we get started. And if you can have the wherewithal, click the join. But we're going to jump right into the interview. It's a sizable interview, but it's from Karl Smith. I think you're going to like it. Let's get it started, and then let's talk afterwards. I did this interview this morning, and I wanted to get it out because I think the more of us have the oomph for winning, the better it's going to be. Tom C., Feliz Año Nuevo. You know what is so good about what you just did, Tom? You took the effort to go out there and not only figure out how to say it in Spanish, but also how to get the punctuation right. You have the exclamations, both the upper and lower exclamation, perfectly done. And you actually have the ñe for año. Man, I got me the best peeps in the world. And of course, from Michigan, we just got into the house. Barbara Wills. How you doing, Barbara? You know what? I'm going to hold off with the interview for about 2 minutes to see if I need to salute anybody else, because I like to call my peeps out. Back at y'all. You got that right, Bridge. But let me tell you, Bridge says, hi, Barbara. Anybody else is in the house that wants to be named? Anybody in the house that wants to be named? Give me a quick message and I want to call you out. You know, I love you guys. And then otherwise, we are going to get right into the interview ahorita mismo, as in right now. And I think you guys are going to like this, peeps. I know you're going to like this. Check this out and let's get busy. Welcome to another edition of Politics. I'm Egberto Willis, your host. We have a great guest as usual. He's been with us before, but he wrote a very important piece that we want to explore. And I think we all need to sit back, grab a cup of coffee, and get ready to listen to some important information. Karl Smith. Karl Smith is an engineer. You know, I really like to interview engineers and their political perspective. He has a message for the Democratic Party. He stated in his article titled 2022 State of Emergency, Democrats must sell the brand or we will lose. Welcome to Politics Done Right once again, Karl. How are you doing today?
Very good. Actually, we all lose, not just we. You know, it's the not just the Democrats will lose, but the Republicans will lose too.
That is so important because you sent me along with your article a message that of how people, how conservatives, or I should say right-wing ideologues like Joe Wilson are campaigning. I want to start there because I think it's important to see what they're trying to do to the psyche of the American people. So let's start there.
Okay. Do you have that article? You want to pull that up? That little clip up?
Yeah. Tell us what he's actually doing.
Okay. So basically, what he's doing is and what Democrats or Republicans do, constantly is and it's really against the brand. And no matter who it is, whatever Democrat, we all basically come under this fire. You could be the most, conservative Democrat out there, and they'll still call you a socialist or communist or whatever. Even after the or during the elections, the runoffs for the Senate in Georgia, I saw driving around, I saw these huge billboards, with Trump and socialism, and just trying to basically, equate that Democrats are going to take your freedoms away and wreck the economy. The store shelves will be bare. We're going to leave all sorts of debt to your kids. And Joe Wilson, so he came out with his newsletter here just a day or so ago, and he calls it the Biden Socialist Spending Package. So this massive Biden-supported Democrat-passed multi-trillion-dollar Build Back Bankrupt spending package, will saddle younger Americans with unimaginable debt and destroy jobs, while Biden's policies are devaluating retirement accounts and devaluing, undermining Social Security and compromising Medicare. Anyway, goes on. It's like given today's devastating inflation affecting the pocketbooks of families. See, they point out a number of things that are really about kind of temporary fluctuations because of supply chain problems and everything. And if we had raised the minimum wage to a livable wage and then pushed up those lower end wages, our citizens would have more buffer to these fluctuations. There's also fluctuations due to COVID itself and the supply or demand for product. And we had very low inflation last year. This year we have a bit higher inflation, but that noise will go away. But they want to scare people with that these are permanent problems caused by the kinds of things that we're doing right now, and the kinds of things that Democrats want to do.
Now, in your article, you made a very important observation. You say that too often Democrats have a tendency to work on charisma, try to bring out their base at the time of an election, etc. And I think your theory is that, no, you have to be, you don't, first of all, you don't start on the defensive, you don't start with platitudes, but you hit it in the gut. And before we go into specifically, people talk about they make Democrats look like they are anti-economic activity and they are just for giving things away. So before we get there, I think what you're alluding to is Democrats need to get on the offensive. Am I correct?
Right, and they need to go after all voters, and not just the base, and not just get out, the new voters, which tend to vote more Democrat than Republican, and so on. We've got to go after their base and those, and the moderates and independents and so on, people that have been voting for Republicans, but given a better message and a message that they can relate to, and a message that counters these fundamental arguments that we're socialists, we're just going to, because no matter how much you want to do, if you want to help somebody and want to, make things better and all that, but if you just don't think you can afford it, then you're not going to do it. You can't do it. If you think that, so if their message wins, then by not understanding, and it wins when people don't understand a few basic principles, about.
No, I don't want to go into those principles yet, because you elaborate on those principles perfectly. And folks, I want everybody here to visit votereducationproject.com. votereducationproject.com. That is the website created by Karl, and Karl gives a great explanation of how an economy, how it should work, etc. And he still calls it capitalism. He and I will never agree on that terminology, but what he supports and what he wants is exactly the same thing that I want for our society. And that's what we find very often, that we have different nomenclatures, etc., but we all want the same thing, Republicans, Democrats alike. So before we get there though, Karl, first of all, I want to let you know that I love your article. I think your article has a whole lot of insight that people need to read. So folks, again, go to votereducationproject.com. Very important for both my KPFT listeners as well as our online listeners to go visit that site, and also provide whatever support you can at that particular website. Anyway, Karl, isn't it true that most of these Republicans who are running and giving all these false information, when Build Back Better comes out, or even when all the other bills that were passed come out, haven't they been campaigning saying we're providing this for our constituents, and these being Democratic initiatives?
Sure. And I would actually add to what you said before about going to the website. Go to the video section, and there's a video on how bottom-up economics works. So that's the one that's about 11 minutes, a little less than 11 minutes. That'll give you the fundamentals, on how to talk to these other people. But yeah, the Republicans, when things are going well, they'll take credit for what they haven't earned. They will misrepresent what they do, and they misrepresent what we do. They take credit for what they haven't done, and then disavow anything, the screw ups, or they equate, well, the Democrats are just as bad and so on, as the Republicans, so they'll basically, like I say, misrepresent, things. And for a lot of voters, it's just, they don't get down into the weeds of, how things work, the economy works and all that. So a lot of it just sounds like he said, she said. So unless we get into the fundamentals, then and they're pretty easy to explain. In an 11-minute video, you can do a pretty good job explaining how this stuff works. And also, we've got to, the reason I say that we've got to really go after this whole thing about capitalism, and socialism, is that they invest a lot of money. That's what they think works, and it does with about half the voters. So unless we're willing to go there, if we kind of shy away from that, of defending this position and actually taking on the lead in this, then they're going to continue to win those people. There's a lot of voters that understand the Democrat argument, which is more of a moral argument, but there's voters that they're more on the economic argument, and a lot of what the Republicans say sounds like it makes sense. So we have to show that, okay, it might sound good, but doesn't work, and how. And we've said that before, but we haven't actually explained how. So the reason I go in and go ahead and take on, capitalism, fine. Well, we need to change it from this, what they want to do is have socialism against capitalism. What we need to do is change it to it's rigged capitalism versus enabled capitalism that works for all of us.
And, that is why I am, that is why, I still, when we talk, I don't sit down here arguing whether to use the word capitalism or not with you at all, because basically you came out with a project and you made a hell of a video, and that video was, I think that video needs to get a whole lot more traction than it has right now, because what you show in that video is exactly how a free enterprise system is supposed to work. Now you continue to use the word capitalism and so forth. Well, I'll give you that, sir. But your theory as far as what an economic system should look like that supports us all is exactly what I think we need to do. I think I would have a bit more social programs in there, but that's debatable as far as whether that it will defeat the purpose or not. I don't know. We won't know till we try. So why don't we take some time here, Karl, and explain what the economic system as you see it. I think we talk of. Why don't you explain it?
Well, yeah. So they want to make it about socialism versus capitalism, and that socialism is they're going to take your freedoms, or we're going to take your freedoms away and leave the store shelves bare and everything. But the reality here is there's investments that we all need. Businesses don't exist without healthy and educated people, and they don't buy those individually. They don't pay for those up front. They don't exist without infrastructure. They don't exist without safe communities, community development, safety nets, and the research. Think about how many of our big corporations, or even the smallest businesses today, how many of them wouldn't exist without the investments we made in creating microelectronics and creating the internet and so on. These have paid back millions of times, or I don't know what the number is, what the multiplier is, but it's a huge number. The dollars that we put into creating microelectronics, our basic public, one of our basic public investments has a huge multiplier and payback to the taxpayer. So we, and then also in educating, in 1800, I don't think most Americans realize that in 1800s, a good part of it, 90% of our population was in poverty, 90%, but then we started actually, we created the K-12 education system, free education. We basically, we had started building our healthcare system. We built infrastructure. We built our safety nets, the safe communities, community development. We made all these basic investments, and these things are critical conditions for businesses, or most businesses, to exist. Yes, if you don't have those kinds of or those common investments, then yeah, some businesses can exist, but most people are in poverty, and that economy doesn't really work very well.
Right. I want to stop you right there for 1 second, just one quick second, and Karl, please keep your thought. But when you gave an out to some businesses that I think is undeserved, when you said maybe there are a few businesses that don't merit from this governmental intervention, etc., my contention is that the mere fact that that everybody else get helped and that everybody else that get help is then going to buy your product because now they are capable of buying your product. You are helped, even if indirectly. Just wanted to make that.
Well, there's a difference between existing and doing well. Yes, those businesses, a little store might be a little thing, you know, but it could be a, you know, it could be helping many more people have much more product. When the population doesn't have money, you don't have, you know, people buying the things that they need. Yes, they have a lot of needs, but they don't have the money to buy, you know, to buy their needs. If you look at third world countries today, where they don't make these huge investments, you know, about 75%, you know, 30 or 66 or 2/3 to 3/4 of their population is in poverty. So yeah, if we want to, you know, continue, and Republicans, it's, you know, talk about taking freedoms. Okay, what kind of freedom do you have if you don't have your health, if you don't have education, if you don't have infrastructure around you to be able to do things, if you don't have the research that basically made, you know, discovered a cure for, you know, whatever you ended up getting and all of that, or what you will get, if we don't, you know, if you don't have a safe community, if you don't have community development, you know, all of these things, if you don't have those things, what kind of freedoms do you have? So when we spend money on those things, yes, it does help people, and some people call that socialism. Okay, but socialism really, in the ultimate thing, would be government control and ownership of pretty much everything. So
all sorts of production.
So this is really just enough of those common investments, whether you call it socialism, or if it's socialism, it's really for businesses as much as for people, because businesses do not exist. So is it really, is it a necessary part of capitalism? And that's what I'm arguing. So it's an enabled capitalism to be much more prosperous, that then can benefit everybody, you know, versus, okay, calling it socialism, which, because that sounds like government ownership, especially the way they define it, and in a lot of people's minds, that's government taking control of everything. These things called democratic socialisms, that's really a misnomer. If you look at those economies in Europe that are called that, most products and services are provided by capitalism, by free enterprise. Okay, but there's some things that are, you know, healthcare and education, other things, you know, college education, all that, you know, is provided by, you know, by our common investments. And so when we help people, when we invest in these things, and when we make sure that we have the safety nets and everything to, you know, to bring people up economically, are we only helping them?
No.
The answer is no. We're also helping the businesses. Business communities are arguing for, you know, they were arguing here in this pandemic, you know, that we need the stimulus, or we need those payments to individuals, you know, to help keep them on their feet.
It is amazing that
you brought businesses.
It's amazing that you brought that up, because, you know, when you have somebody like Elon Musk saying, "Oh, I'm not for Build Back Better," when he benefited, you know, it's amazing. The businesses want all the stimuli there up front, but when it is time to make some permanence to give people support, then they bought, because they know, yes, it really means higher taxes, but higher taxes doing good, and that ultimately will do better for the company. You call those investments, by the way, Karl, BPIs, basic public investments. And I think you just did a great example of how basic public investments are actually good for businesses. That's what you just explained right there. Now you have another,
not just good, I mean, necessary. I mean,
thanks for the correction. That is a very important correction, because good for and necessary, they're quite, you know, necessary is much more important than just good. You have another thing.
Do you even have a functioning capitalistic system, you know, at any kind of real level, or what we would expect today, without these investments? The answer is no.
You're
so this
so
is
right.
Not socialism. So if we basically get people to understand just a few basic concepts which are explained in the video, you know, then it's going to be like the Republicans. They'll say these things, but then that sound good. Oh, we're going to give more money to job creators, and, you know, we're going to get government out of the way, and all this kind of things. Those things sound good, but don't work. And then, but if people understand the fundamentals, they'll know that, you know, they'll say bullshit.
Right.
if it's or BS or whatever.
Right.
It's like if somebody tells you that you can put because a few things about your car. Okay, you're not an
Right.
expert about auto mechanics, probably maybe you are, but most people aren't, and yet
I'm not.
they can operate their car. A
Right.
farmer can basically have a good knows what needs to be done to have a good crop. But if with your car, if somebody tells you put sand in the gas tank and it'll run fine, you're going to say BS because a few fundamentals. That car is not going to work, with sand in the gas, with sand in the gas tank. So if we educate people on a few fundamentals, which can be actually laid out in about 11 minutes. So people learn more about their TV remote control and all that kind of stuff. They spend more time learning these things than what it takes just to understand a few basic principles about the economy. And then they'll know the difference between BS and good ideas.
And well, you have
And
another good point that you talk about called VAW, valuing all workers. And then you put it on your title, that creates customers with money. I've always said that not because somebody is rich or not because somebody owns a business means that they either understand economics or that they have a hell of a lot upstairs. They just know what they want to do or they just know what they're doing. And not the indirect things from not valuing your workers is actually an entire circle, right? That workers aren't valued, they don't make enough, they don't spend, that business that depends on people who spend fails. I mean, they don't get it. So speak a little bit about value all workers.
right, yeah. Well, and Henry Ford knew that if he paid his workers, better. Now he didn't have competition at that point, but he wanted to show the world that hey, even his own workers could afford this. So he could have paid them crap and had workers, but he chose to pay them well, and they could actually afford the cars. And it turns out most the wage contribution to the price of products and services is actually pretty small,
right,
for most businesses. And where not, then those prices should be higher. But basically, so if you doubled the minimum wage, and by the way, from 1968 to today, the minimum wage would be about $12 if we had just adjusted inflation. So $15, and then the economy, our prosperity has actually tripled in that time. So where obviously none of it has gone to the hardworking.
No, you said, I think people need to understand that because we talk a lot about transferring money to the wealthy and that all the money is going to the top 1%. And the way the Republicans deal with that is they try to talk about wealth envy or that sort of a stuff, which sort of, make a poor person says, no, I don't want wealth envy. I want to do it myself as well, which in general, the wealthy has done it themselves. But the reason I think that is important is for people to understand that the wealthy isn't that the wealthy are not these benevolent folks. The fact of the matter that you just made a very important point on productivity. Productivity went through the roof, meaning it took less people to make a hell of a lot more and to attain or garner more capital. And all that capital that came in wasn't shared by those who created a better productivity, a better product. All the folks to the top took it all. And I think unless people understand the level of selfishness, the level of thievery that is occurring at the top, they continue to think, well, someday that could be me. No, it's actually never going to be you.
Right. For 99.9999% of the people,
right,
won't work out. But a lot of that, the greed and everything that's pointed out about corporations is actually just part of the system. It's the people are playing by the rules, and unfortunately, the rules are basically so that you have to maximize return for the investor, even if you're you're what's called externalizing negative. So like if you're kind of screwing up the environment, or you're killing a few customers, or killing some employees, or whatever. Well, if the cost of that, the lawsuits and all that kind of stuff is smaller than the profits you will make, you're supposed to take the profits, to return those to the investor. So you externalize negative. There's a different form, and there's a different form of governance that gets into having to meet the needs of being responsible to the needs of all stakeholders and not just shareholders, and that's basically the benefit corporation, and benefits or B Corp certification and so on. So I think about 2/3 of the states now, or somewhere in there, have B Corp.
Right.
You're able to incorporate as a B Corp, as a benefit corporation. And if you want to look up B Labs, or any viewers out there, you look up B Labs and kind of look at what they're doing. But we could actually require corporations in certain industries, maybe the food industry, medical, energy, to be B Corps. And it's like it's the rules. So then they would be measured against how they treat their community, how they treat their employees, how they treat their their customers and their stockholders and so on. So they have a whole metric system, and it turns out that these corporations generally do better than regular C Corps. Because their reputations are so much better. They create a lot more goodwill in their communities. They don't come in and take a bunch of tax breaks to come there and just leave at the first, whenever they can move that plant to someplace else. And they're really responsible to them. And so people respond to them.
I want to take you up on something that you just said, because you keep making these important points, and then I want people to centralize on these points. About 2 minutes ago, you mentioned that these people that are abiding by these rules aren't necessarily bad. They're just playing the game by the rules. And I want to awake everybody to the economist, what I call the latest daddy of capitalism, known as Milton Friedman. And Milton Friedman says specifically that it's not the responsibility of executives in a company to worry about social issues. It's not the responsibility of executives in a company to worry about doing good for society. That's not their job. Their only job is to maximize profits for the shareholder. Henceforth, capitalism, as defined by Milton Friedman, the latest daddy of capitalism, says that the only thing that matters is the maximization of capital. What Karl is speaking about now is saying that doesn't work overall in the long run. And today's economy, that looks like it's doing very well. If you look at the aggregate of all the numbers, it looks great. But the reality is the suffering among so many proves that it doesn't work. Continue, Karl. I just wanted to expand on that because that was a very important point that you made there.
Yeah, the corporations used to have a sense of stewardship, toward their communities and their employees and that kind of thing. But because of this push toward maximizing profit for shareholders, that has gone away in the regulations. And then a lot of unfortunately, the rich and powerful, end up rewriting or influencing policy. So then it just becomes more and more rigged, and that's where Reich has a lot of videos and,
yes, he does,
articles on Robert Reich on on how the system is rigged, by the rich, for the rich, and so it's not a fair system. Back in, this was like in the 1800s when we had the robber barons,
right.
So some of them, there were people and companies that did extremely well, but at the expense of almost everybody else not
Absolutely.
doing well. And really, even that wealthy class is actually very small. In a prosperous economy, there'll actually be a broader wealthy class. There might not be some of the wealth, some of the top earners or whatever, they might not have quite as much, but they do extremely well, so we're not going to hurt them,
right?
And it's really a lot of these investments, it's not like, these things have to be put in context. Here, Joe Wilson, he talks about, 4.5 trillion or whatever, and these aren't zero costs and
right.
They have to be paid for. Well, when we actually do these investments, they expand the economy. They create a billion, they create a bigger economy. And that's at 4.5 trillion that they're talking about. That sounds like a lot of money. Oh man, that's just
over
so
10
much.
years.
We can't afford that. But you look at 10 years, yeah. That's going to be, and we talk about, well, that's over 10 years or whatever. And but we don't actually talk about, and what the Democrats need to mention is this is actually the amount of money, the amount of economic activity over that time, okay, which is somewhere around 250 trillion
Right. It's a
dollars.
small
And so
percentage.
4.5 trillion doesn't really sound a lot in the context. They
Carl,
talk about,
we're coming up on time here. So I have to, normally the last question I ask is tell me something you wanted me to ask you that I didn't. But since I know you so well, I'm going to ask for you to do a better thing. And that is tell me what Democrats need to do in 2022 in 2 minutes, exactly what they need to do to win it. My contention is that the media would have you believe that it's all lost. I think it is all there to win. Tell us,
right,
Carl, how to win.
we have to go after their base. Trump showed that you can go into the enemy camp or people that aren't voting for you, and you can pull out votes. And if for every vote you flip, it's like 2 votes, one less for them and one more for us. And a lot of people, these places are not monoliths. Husbands don't agree with wives, and kids don't agree with their parents, and all this stuff. So if we go in and message, to all of these places, and not throw a single voter, just not ignore any voters, just go after all of them with a message that can actually resonate with them. Not the moral. I mean, we can still make the moral arguments, but we need to make the economic arguments that these are investments that pay off. They create and save more tax revenues than they cost. So, we will pay for these. A fair tax system will help, bootstrap these, help kickstart them. But we need to stop talking about, well, how are we going to pay for such and such, and turn it into an argument of how we're going to kickstart these investments. So, like for global warming, we don't have to come up with $35 trillion over the next 30 years or whatever to pay for it. Or, we have to go 35 trillion. That sounds like almost right now. We have to basically kickstart it with a little bit. That's going to start generating more money, more tax revenues and stuff. It will pay for it. So that in that 35 trillion sounds like a huge amount of money. It's in the context of close to $1 quadrillion of economic activity. We need to point out context. So point out context, point out, how these things, explain how these things actually pay for themselves. And like I said, my little 11-minute video, or not even 11-minute video, explains the basics. There's a lot of basic messages in there. We need to start talking about basic public investments, and let's go there. Let's make that full argument. And there's plenty of places for little terms and all of that, your sound bites and all that. But there's also a deeper argument.
Look, folks, please visit votereducationproject.com. Votereducationproject.com. Go to the video sections, play the video, listen to the video, watch the video, and share the video most of all. And
how bottom-up economics works. That's specifically that one. How bottom-up economics works.
How bottom-up economics work. It is very, very important for us to start doing the job now, and don't depend on the leadership telling you what to do. Listen to the grassroots people. Listen to the Karl Smiths of the world, and to a message to the Democratic Party. I suggest you grab hold of Karl Smith as soon as you can, because he knows how to speak to not only people in the South, the North, the East, and the West, but he has a canny ability to reach and touch everybody. Karl Smith, thank you so kindly for having been on Politics Done Right.
I hope you had a Merry Christmas and you're looking forward to a Happy New Year. And hopefully we will have a huge disappointment for the Republicans. They're gerrymandering all these districts, and hopefully we can go in and take out voters, and the voters they were counting on, we can take some of them away.
Karl Smith, votereducationproject.com. Thank you so kindly.
I love my people.
All right. I think I have sound now. I hope I have sound. Oh, the sound is back. The sound is back. I forgot to turn it on. Anyhow, folks, thank you so kindly for watching that. Bridge MCP, of course, reminds me that it is time to ask you guys to go ahead and please subscribe. Go ahead and type politicsdoneright.com/YouTube, politicsdoneright.com/YouTube. Don't forget, if you are already on YouTube, just click that join button and you can become a part of the PDR posse on YouTube. But alternatively, we give you all kinds of options to really help us out here to keep this stuff flowing. Go to politicsdoneright.com/Patreon, politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. Patreon is Patreon. Yeah, that sound was my fault. I forgot to turn the mic back on. politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. But the best way, of course, is either going on a one-time support or monthly support by going to politicsdoneright.com/PayPal, politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. We appreciate whatever you have to offer to make sure we can continue telling the truth, make sure we can continue giving the story. And I ask you so kindly, get the books. politicsdoneright.com/books. politicsdoneright.com/books. I guarantee you're going to get stuff out of those books. Now, if you want to know the catch-all to help us out here, in other words, what is that link that has all the different ways that we can help Politics Done Right? There you go, Politics Done Right. And thank you for saying I look better now, Bridge. The lighting I know was horrendous. It was terrible. But, my folks had to get ready, all that good stuff, and I wanted to make it as pleasant and pleasurable as possible. Anyway, continuing with the program. If you notice what we had on the program, we said, it seems like somebody got Bernie pissed off, and it was one of the billionaires. And when I read it, I also got pissed off because I want you guys to see this. Let me go ahead and put this on the screen. And don't forget, folks, support the show. You know how to do it. Let me go ahead and see if I can get this onto the screen. Let's see if it's there. I think, oh, is it not there? Oh, we don't have a connection to that. Oh, well, I thought I had a connection. Let's see, but I want to get that connection done. But anyhow, there's a strike going on with the steel workers, and given the type of work, the type of stuff that you hear, what's his name talk about, Warren Buffett, all of the times, you would think that Warren Buffett would be there, ready, half-cocked and ready to support whom again? To support the people. Well, it seems like he was not. And you know who called him out. Let me go ahead and get that link in here. I think that's it here. Let's see if that does it for us or not. Yeah, I think that's going to do it. There it is on the screen. I figured it out in real time. Bernie Sanders, it says as follows. This is what it says. Let's go ahead and pull that up. It says, that's wrong. Sanders slams Buffett for refusing to side with striking steel workers. Thursday Senator Bernie Sanders on Thursday slammed billionaire Warren Buffett for refusing to intervene on the side of West Virginia steel workers who are striking to demand better pay and benefits for Precision Cast Parts, a company owned by Buffett's multinational holding conglomerate Berkshire Hathaway. When you have an extremely profitable, well-financed corporation owned by one of the wealthiest guys in the world, you know what? You should not be demanding wage cuts from your workers and cuts from their healthcare benefits, Sanders wrote on Twitter. That's just wrong. Sanders' tweet came after he sent a letter Tuesday urging Buffett, one of the richest people in the world, to get involved in negotiations between Precision Cast Parts and United Steelworkers Local 40 to ensure striking employees are treated with dignity and respect and receive a fair contract that rewards the hard work and sacrifices they need. And the reason this brought something back to me is I remember I had a soft spot for Warren Buffett because he came out and said, I should not be paying less taxes than my secretary. I should not be paying less taxes than all these people. True. So it seems like Buffett was wanting to be one of the guys supporting the little man. Well, then make sure that all the companies that you are making a killing off of do their part. You sit down in I know you live in a modest home, so thank you for that living in some mansion to expose your wealth. But still, you are living off of the backs of all those people who perk up Berkshire Hathaway. So please, Mr. Buffett, do the right thing. You implied that you weren't one of the other billionaires that just ripped off its employee. Prove it, as El Senor Bernie Sanders says. You guys, I have the article in the blog. Just go ahead and read the article. I'll probably just cut this little segment out to go with the article. But everybody needs to call up Berkshire Hathaway and tell them, follow your leader's word. Sign a contract with the steel workers and stop trying to half-bake their salaries and their support. They need the support of us all. Anyhow, let me go to the messaging that you guys had over, let's see, Kay the Gardener. Welcome to the Politics and Right, Kay the Gardener. Well, there we go. We have another bot. Let me kill the bot. Bot's dead. All right, let's see what else we've got here. Para ver. Coming up. All right, let's go ahead and start reading what. Ooh, you guys have a lot of stuff. John Trott, welcome to Politics and Right. Carl Cox, Masticator, welcome aboard. E2247. I don't know if I called you out yet, but you're here. Thank you so kindly for being here. Norman Reynolds, I know I called you out, brother. Norman had something to say. He says, question, given our country's dysfunction that is built in our current split in government and split in state houses, I think bipartisanship is an anachronism that is unlikely to return. If my expectation is right, how do you think we can change our government to prevent a continual tyranny of the minority so we can bring some substantial help for the poor and the middle class? Here's what it's called, grassroots. And grassroots mean, let's not make it a Republican and Democratic thing when we are going out there to vote. But of course, right now it has to be a Democratic thing because the Republicans have sold their souls. So right now, every progressive has to be a Democrat for now. Julie Henderson, welcome aboard. So what we're trying to say, oh, well, thank you so kindly. Bridge MCP just gave us a super chat for $20. Thank you so kindly, Mademoiselle Bridge MCP. You know, when I get these super chats, it's my responsibility to go ahead and say we are going to get that on the screen because we are so happy when we pick up these super chat. So I want to go ahead and get that super chat for the screen. Thank you so kindly, Bridge. Anyway, folks, as it turns out, we have to, Norman has a very important question or statement, okay? And I want to address it directly. Norman is pointing out that the reality is, it is anachronism. It is no longer functional, this bipartisanship that we're talking about. So how do we get around it? How are we going to really start to say we can still have progressives do what progressives need to do, etc.? I have the answer. The answer is simple. And by the way, I need to read. Breed says, for all your hard work while helping Ashley, the Wonder Woman and future doctor. Breed, that's why I love you so. Thank you so kindly for that statement, Breed. It made my day. You made my day. Thank you. That's touching. See, when I tell you we have wonderful people, the kind of support we've gotten from the posse is just outstanding. Just outstanding. Thank you so kindly. Let me get Bridge up there real quickly. You know, I like to salute all the folks that are always helpful to our show, and I am doing it right now. I got her lined up. There is our Dode. Thank you, Bridge. Got you right up there. Thank you so kindly for that. Anyhow, so here's what we got to do, folks. We have to be cognizant of what Norman says. It's anachronism. It is. It is. So, next election, what we have to tell everybody, you got to go out there and bust your butt and elect, I don't care if there's an incumbent running. Incumbents that prevented us from having Build Back Better in the fashion that it needs to be are immaterial. Therefore, please, campaign, support, and donate to those progressives that are running and work your butt off to get them to win the primary. And after they've won their primaries, we have to work our butt off not only to convince Democrats to go out and vote, but we're going to go and talk to everybody that we see, hey, do you need this? Would you like a candidate who's going to do this? And when they say, I ain't voting for no Democrat, we say, please vote for this person. This is what this person is going to do for. It's not going to work for everybody. You're going to get thrown to the ground sometimes. I remember being in Starbucks talking to my conservative brothers and sisters. Some of them just thought I was nuts. But everybody eventually started to listen. And then some started to change. I did quick 2 stories that I always tell for those who haven't been here before. I got a slap on the back at the gym just before the pandemic. And the guy, Republican, very strong Republican, come to me and he says, I'm going to make your day. And I'm like, what do you mean? He said, I'm not voting for Trump. I'm not voting for any Republican or whatever. I'm voting for your guy. And he told me that in 2016. Come 2018, another one at the gym. I can't do it anymore. I'm voting for, I think it was, I don't remember who it was that he was voting for in our local elections. And he said, I'm done. I'm done. And then he wanted to say, but I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a liberal. I'm not a crazy lefty like you are, but I'm going to make your day. That's who I'm supporting. And I think I've told you guys a story about the woman in Starbucks, and I can tell you story after story. I told you the story about the guy who hated immigration. And after I asked him to do some research, he came and slapped me on the back and he says, Egberto, this is what I believe in. I said, write a blog for me. And I thought he would say no. And then I said, okay, write the blog. I'll put it in somebody else's name. Nope, I'll write the blog and put it in my name. And he said, of course, it's going to be immigration the Republican way. Hey, that's a start. And he did it. People, you have power. Every one of you listening to me right now, you have power. What they depend on, first thing I did when moving before anything was register to vote. Thank you very much, Bridge. E2247 says, in the center of the earth, and okay, I'll read that one another time. E2247. But anyhow, so the one thing you have to remember, everybody that's listening to my voice right now, is you have power and you have agency. The idea behind the Republican orthodoxy is to beat you down so hard that you don't even want to get up and try. They want you to believe things are a foregone conclusion. And what politics done right and organizations like what we do here are here for is to tell you, don't buy it. They know that because we have better policies, if we do not lose our hope, if we do not allow ourselves to be bullied, if we go out there and go toe for toe, policy per policy, in talking to people, you, not me, you will make a difference. Whether you're doing it on Facebook, whether you're doing it on Twitter, whether you're doing it, I want you to be doing it flesh and blood too, with a mask on. Because I tell you folks, busting your spirit is what they need to do. They have to do. Maywood, welcome aboard. They need you. Exactly, Bridge, divide and conquer. So I have an ask for everybody. Please, use every influence you have, social media, in person, and everywhere. Forget about peer pressure. You always have your friends here. You always have those who love you and support you right here as part of the PDR posse. So don't fear going out there and ruffling a few feathers. Go out there, everywhere. Let me tell you what I used to do. I would sit down in a coffee shop, Starbucks or any other coffee shop. And if I hear somebody talking stupidity about how crazy liberals are, etc., or whatever, I will go and civilly get into the conversation. And I would ask questions. Believe it or not, Bridge, I have 60-year-old friends who still are succumb to peer pressure. So I would butt into their conversations gently. I make them like me. Okay? And I'm serious about that. Some people are like, you're pushing yourself on them. You're just trying to be liked. And I say, yeah, I'm trying to be liked. I'm trying to be liked. Because people are going to listen to somebody they like. I'm not ashamed to say I'm trying for person number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4 to like me. But I want them to like me for a purpose so that they will listen to me. So I would butt into people's argument, but I wouldn't do it in a way like, oh, you're stupid, you're wrong. I'll go in and like, ma'am, why do you think that? And then they'll say X, Y, Z. And then all of you guys know I have a wife with lupus. So a lot of times I would use it as an excuse. So I would say, ma'am, I have a wife with lupus, and I also own my own company. And I couldn't get insurance and X, Y, Z. And you know what saved me? And they'll be like, first of all, the shock of somebody just coming and talk to them. I'd like, you know what saved me? You know what saved her life? The Affordable Care Act. Had we not had that, we couldn't get it. And it'll take the person aback. A lot of times they'll say, yeah, but they could have done that for her and not for the others. And I'll say, but ma'am, how would we accomplish that? And by the end of the conversation, they won't necessarily completely agree, but I would put a thought in their head. They wouldn't be so obnoxious to the thought of somebody using governmental control to do things, right? And some of them will outright say, why? I tell you, the best one that I've heard was when one woman told me, why didn't I ever hear this before? To which I said, what news station do you watch? And then she said, you're not going there, are you? And for me, it's like, no, ma'am, I'm just saying that if you haven't heard that, you should be suspect of the stations that you're listening to. I'm not trying to be rude. And then she paused for a while, and then she says, you know what? I guess you're right. But the way that it was done was not to call her an idiot or call her a fool or gullible, although many of us would kind of feel that kind of a way. So that's where we're at. We are coming close to the end of the show. Please remember, folks, please go ahead and if you're on YouTube, click that join button and become a part of our PDR posse. We do need your support. If you're not on YouTube, on some other channel, on podcasts or whatever, go to politicsdoneright.com/YouTube, politicsdoneright.com/YouTube. Alternatively, you can go to politicsdoneright.com/Patreon, politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. You can also do politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. By the way, those of you who support us on PayPal, like I told you before, we get the best bang for the buck when you support us monthly at PayPal. But we want them all, because we want to have several different sources of income in case some of them go under, like sometimes it has before. I think I gave you all the story about when Google changed the algorithm, when we had to go to a subscription model because of the algorithm change. Get our books, politicsdoneright.com/books, politicsdoneright.com/books. And if you want to find all the different ways of supporting us, politicsdoneright.com/support. Guys, I love you. For those of you who are not going to be here tomorrow, Happy New Year. I'll be doing 2 shows tomorrow, both at KPFT on air, as well as here on the internet as well. So you get 2 blasts, one at kpft.org and of course one at politicsdoneright.com/TV or at YouTube or at Facebook or all these other places. I really couldn't do this without you all. You all make the show. You all are the face of the show. You all give me stories for the show, just like Bruce did yesterday. Breach has given us shows before. Many of you have given us shows before. So thank you so kindly for all that you have been. Nanette Bird Smith says, Team Ashley Strong. Team Ashley Strong, Nanette. Absolutely, Team Ashley Strong. Thank you so kindly for the support that all of you have given us while here. The moral support, supporting the studio that you guys built. I call this your studio. You built the studio in my daughter's tiny apartment. You guys are simply wonderful, 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 and I couldn't ask for a better audience. But what I want you to do for me is spread the word. I would like more live viewers. We don't have the best time, but I'd like more live viewers. We have thousands of after the fact viewers, but I'd love to have more live viewers. But you guys have my heart, so I'll always make sure to answer your requests, etc. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you guys know how I end this, baby. I am what? Out. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.